Facilitator makes something easier, whether that is learning, whether that is the project, whether that is the leadership program taking place. They help to facilitate that learning to make easier for the young people, for the adults that they're working with.
A facilitator is like a Wi-Fi router. When they're working, you don't even know they exist. Because when a Wi-Fi router is down, you're like, why is the Wi-Fi down? Why is it not working? But when a facilitator is doing an effective job of facilitation, you barely even notice they're there.
What we hear is the incredible sound that orchestra produces. All the different instruments are coming in harmony. The conductor guiding all of the different sounds. Similarly, a facilitator in a space is aware and awake and guiding the learning, the energy, the music, the highs, the lows, the pace, the exploration. Podclass acknowledges the traditional and true custodians of the land we meet on here today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We're grateful to be here.
So no one told you teaching was gonna be this way. Your lesson plans are jokes, your patience broke, you're feeling in disarray. It's like you're always stuck in report writing, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your school year. But I'll be here for you
When the students start to riot,
I'll be here for you.
even if your coffee has gone cold.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Friends, it is your pals. We are back for another episode. My name is Will, and I have some friends to my couch on my right.
I'm sorry.
This is how we know Will doesn't drive a car.
For those who are listening, Will just freaked out about getting his lefts and rights right, held out his hands, you know how you can see the L on the left, and then quickly went, on my right. And we are his friends, Amanda and Sky.
And I'm really pleased to say you actually got it right, Will. So
Thank
we
you.
are on your right today.
Yes, I did. Better
very,
than me in my
very-
driving test.
very
He said turn right, and I went had the left indicator on.
And this is why we never let Will Masara borrow your car. Anyway, that's another episode.
Very, very happy to be here. Very excited about today's topic. Today is the one about what a facilitator actually is.
Ooh, I feel like
Facilitator.
we especially reference facilitators quite frequently because we refer to ourselves as facilitators when we're speaking and running programs, and we work, and this podcast is for educators and facilitators. And so unpacking, like, we know what a teacher is, and we know what an educator is. Unpacking what a facilitator is something we're really excited to do because it can feel a bit ambiguous. It can feel a bit ethereal. Like, what is a facilitator?
Yeah.
And why, in like our youth organizations, why do we refer to the people running programs as facilitators? It's a great question.
And why do we say they're not teachers, right?
Or
They might be in the
speakers.
space, they might be teaching something, or speakers and presenters. And depending, like, org to org, group to group, they might change their language slightly. The reason we use the word facilitator, and I guess maybe a starting point, is to unpack the word facilitator itself.
I feel like we have a language lesson incoming.
Am I an English teacher or am I not an English teacher?
You're about to become a French teacher, I hear.
So facilitator comes from the word facile in French, and that means to make easier, right?
Très bien.
So, which is very cool. And we might say like facile in like Australian or American English, but yeah, to make something easier. And I really think that that's such a beautiful summation of what a facilitator does in a space. They make something easier, whether that is learning, whether that is the project, whether that is the leadership program taking place. They help to facilitate that learning to make easier the learning for whatever it is for the young people, for the adults that they're working with.
And I guess like one of our goals potentially by the end of this episode is that you can recognize the difference between a speaker or a presenter and a facilitator, and how different youth orgs can interact maybe with young people.
And I guess probably like to just break it down even more simply, maybe for people who don't understand the difference, a facilitator isn't like the hero of the room, if that makes sense. Although they're often perceived that way. And I would
Maybe
say
because they're at the front of the room.
There's I don't know where I saw it. I saw it the other day, and it was like a facilitator is like a Wi-Fi router. When they're working, you don't even know they exist.
I love that.
Because like when a Wi-Fi router is down, you're like, why is the Wi-Fi down? Why is it not working? But when a facilitator is doing an effective job of facilitation, you barely even
And I
notice
would
they're
say
there.
like pop culture reference, and maybe this is like older for some of our audience, but you think about someone like an Ellen DeGeneres or an Oprah Winfrey, and they are like literally the main host, the spotlight, the face of their talk show, but their shows actually aren't about them. It's about all the people that come on. It's about highlighting issues or conversations or whatever it might be. And that's really what facilitators do. They're the ones holding space. They might be guiding or leading the room, but it's not actually about them. It's about the stuff that's happening around them.
And when we're training, we do a lot of training in facilitation, which we feel really privileged to do in the space. We love to use the metaphor of an orchestra and a conductor. And let's say for a moment that we're sitting in a theatre, we're blessed enough to be sitting in a theatre watching something and it's live music and it's an orchestra. What we hear is the incredible sound that orchestra produces. What we know is going on is all the different instruments are coming in harmony because the conductor is beautifully and like wonderfully nurturing and guiding all of the different sounds. And similarly, a facilitator in a space is aware and awake and guiding the learning, the energy, the music, the highs, the lows, the pace, the exploration. And ideally, our young people are just experiencing a symphony of exploration.
Yeah. Wow. And I love that because facilitators aren't necessarily experts, right? In whatever it is that's going on in the space. We would consider facilitators, and when we train, this is again something that we highlight, facilitators are not experts. They are permission givers. They are permission givers. They uplift, they amplify, they highlight, and they help to orchestrate the voices, the momentum, whatever it is that needs to take place in that space.
And maybe like a very example of a direct quote of the difference between facilitation and presenting or a traditional teaching would be like, here's what you need to know. Comparatively to a facilitation style of here's what we're going to explore together.
Which we also know that young people respond a lot more positively to than that traditional teaching. I'm the expert. I know exactly. I have all the answers. You have to come to me. I'm the one source of truth kind of vibe. And while so many educators are absolutely experts in their field and they should be celebrated and awarded for their expertise, young people and an approach to learning that is a collaborative approach that's like, hey, I'm in this with you, let's work it out together, is that they're then becoming facilitators of learning. And I love that. And it was my favorite part about teaching was if a young person would throw me a question or a curveball or something that I had no idea about what the answer was, not pretending or making something up on the spot, but going, I actually have no idea, but let's explore it or let's figure it out, or can I come back to you, or how about you go away and research and let me know what you learn. And
we know
that's just facilitating.
We've spoken so much about building trust and giving young people ownership. It does all of them things in that moment too.
And if you're a teacher listening to this and you're reflecting on some lessons that have felt just like this, that have felt like a bit of a symphony where there's youth voice and you're exploring a concept, but then it gets unpacked and there's a really beautiful nature to how, everything unfolds, you were facilitating the learning. You are the teacher of the class. You're guiding and instructing with some, knowledge and sharing of that knowledge, but you are facilitating the learning in the space to build that symphony.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe what we could do is unpack what are the aspects of facilitation that make it really effective. Because I think for every single one of us, we've probably sat in a space where a facilitator has been really effective. We've probably also been in a space where it's felt clunky. It's felt like they're speaking at us. It's felt like they're trying to make it all about them. So and that's really where it doesn't work.
And maybe for the purpose of this conversation or this part of the conversation, then let's refer to facilitators as those people who are running in-school workshops or maybe presenting to a group of young people. But also if you're a teacher listening, think of yourself as a facilitator of learning in your day-to-day classroom. Both of those spaces, these things are true and can be considered best practice for our students and their learning regardless of which space they're sitting in.
Team, thank you so much for listening to Podclass. We are just jumping in here quickly to let you know that the Youth Leadership Academy Australia National Tour registrations are now open for both our primary and secondary conferences in Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. Get in quick and we will see you there. I think the first point is obviously what we've already touched on of like they don't need to know everything. They just need to know how to ask and how to listen.
Yeah.
It's like what we've already touched on, but that asking and listening back to be able to respond to what is needed in that moment as well.
I love that. That active listening piece is huge and leaving it open for always having that two-way street of exploration.
And it removes the tokenistic, hey, I've asked students, but I actually know best and here's what we're going to do, right? It means that we're actually listening to the voices of our young people. We're responding and adapting to that in the moment.
And what that means is we have to have a willingness for things to not go exactly identically as we maybe planned. Facilitation is like setting and having clarity around the end goal and where we're heading and letting go of elements of how we get there.
Yeah.
Right?
Which I love, right? And I guess it is jumping ahead a little bit, but this means that we have to be able to adapt to the room, not just read off slides.
Yes.
Because if things don't go to plan and maybe, the young people need a brain break in the room, maybe the conversation actually takes a turn in a really interesting area that would be great to explore and better learning might take place down that pathway instead. We have to be flexible and willing to adapt so that we don't become really stagnant and then we get our young people offside.
Which I think sometimes the barrier is like you have this thought of you've put so much effort into this slides, you've put so much work into it. Regardless of that, you need to detach yourself from what you've already done and what is in the room right now.
Yes, an exploration or a slightly different journey of learning is not an insult.
No.
It is beautiful. And I think that leads us to a really crucial part of facilitating learning, which is really making sure, I was going to say facilitating, making sure there's psychological safety in the space. And I think there's a number of aspects of psychological safety. One thing is meeting young people where they're at. So wherever they're at on their part of the journey or whatever contribution they have, we're meeting them where they're at. And most importantly, we're not making anyone wrong.
Which can be challenging, right? Because we can come in with an expectation and put our own assumptions and projections on how we believe young people should be. So I mean, I've been guilty of this. I've come into a classroom and I've said things out loud, like say it's a group of Year 9 students, and I've come in and I'm gone, come on guys, we're in Year 9 here. This isn't how Year 9 students behave. And it's like you're literally putting your expectation, and then you actually look at the context and you have an approach of empathy instead of that judgment, and that you get curious about it instead, and you realize just how wrong you are.
And I think like we often speak about it in the terms of young people, but it's also like if you're a leadership, if you're a principal or a deputy, the same goes for your staff and your team as well.
100%.
And creating that space, because you're going to create a team of teachers who are more likely to stay in their jobs, are more motivated to come to work, are more excited and feel more safe to be able to deliver the class.
And another huge part of psychological safety is meeting psychological needs. We know self-determination.
We don't know anything about that.
Just everything.
Self-determination theory tells us that the 3 core psychological needs are that of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And if you haven't already listened to the episode on engagement, we really unpack
Episode number 2.
Yeah, episode number 2,
It's
way
really
back
gone
when.
back now, isn't it?
Way back when. We really unpack those psychological needs and how we can both support them, but also hinder them in practice. And most importantly, what we know from the research is that the role of the facilitator, it's that one of the greatest determinants of engagement and motivation in our learning spaces is the facilitator's inclusion of those core psychological needs in practice.
And the last one, Will, I feel like is really important to you. Something you're really passionate about. It's the big F word.
The big F word, feedback.
The big F word.
I think the big,
not what you were thinking of, naughty people. Oh my gosh.
Just to crave feedback in every single moment and be so open to that feedback when you're getting off stage, when you get walking out of the classroom. It's like, are you doing a self-assessment on yourself? And then are you asking other people for feedback as well? Because that is how we constantly...
It's literally a while principle. You're always like,
leaders are learners. It's like, but it's the ethos of everything, because we are able to deliver better content to our classrooms. We're better able to serve our young people. We're better able to be able to get to that end goal. And I think I would just like to touch on the one more of managing the power dynamic within the classroom or within the school. And I think probably something that I'm most proud of from a while facilitation point of view and also a facilitation point of view is we always have schools come back and say, we're so proud of our students because the people who spoke up today are the ones who don't normally speak up. And the reason why they've done that is because for the first time in a while, we've created the space where they're able to do so. So how do you manage that power dynamic to make sure the person raising their hand isn't only the one that is always raising their hand? How do you encourage the voices who are normally quiet to feel empowered to use their voice?
And it's all these things, right?
So many
like if psychological safety is met, I would say that would probably be one of the key distinctions to allowing those people to feel safe enough to do so.
And if we were going to break it down, raising your hand comes with a risk. And the antidote to risk is trust and safety. And we build trust and safety through that symphony of facilitation, through meeting psychological needs, through having an effective gradient of our content, all of these different elements that we unpack on lots of different podcasts. So there's so much that goes into it. And I think, something Sky and I have been so fascinated about now for so many years on our facilitation journeys is what are all the elements that make it work? How do we break them down? How do we create tangible, teachable frameworks so anyone can enhance and improve? And I think,
which we do, and we offer 1, 2, and 3 day trainings that are facilitation specific. And that can be whether you're a facilitator to groups of young people and students, or you're facilitating meetings at work. Yeah. Regardless, these are the same tools that we can apply in these different settings.
Because every single time when we increase our facilitation, we increase our outcome.
And as you've said with the Wi-Fi router, when a facilitator is really in their flow, in their groove, they're really
full connectivity.
Yeah, they're really conducting a symphony of an experience, and it looks easy when that's occurring. Like you could see a facilitator doing that, and when it looks that simple and when it looks easy and when it looks so natural, chances are they have been crafting that skill set for some time.
Which hopefully, just listening to this has helped break down some of those stereotypes or at least increase understanding about what a facilitator is, because facilitation it's not just icebreakers and name games. It's not about just coming in and winging it, cracking a few jokes and leaving.
And I think that's
deeply intentional.
I find really frustrating when people just wing it because they don't take the responsibility of facilitation or the responsibility that they have as serious as what they should be.
It's not about...
it's a privilege to be there on a stage in a classroom. It may not always feel like it.
It's a big responsibility.
So if we are working on our facilitation, whether we run programs, projects, whether we're a classroom teacher, what are some key elements to take away from this that we can implement to enhance our facilitation?
For me, questions is the biggest one because it should be a conversation, right? We always talk about being with the people that we're spending time with our audience, not talking at our audience. One of the best ways we can do that is through opening up dialogue. So ask better questions. And if you don't have good questions up your sleeve, go away and actually learn prepare some questions that you'd love to pose to the group. Because once you have some great questions to get started, it's amazing how much natural conversation and dialogue will flow from that.
For me, it's like turning that spotlight away from you and to the young people.
Yeah.
Or the people in your spaces, like how you're shining a light on them to be able to create these spaces.
Decenter yourself. I think a huge one for me has been reflecting on my past experiences sitting in an audience and actually thinking about what is it that feels great? What is it that feels like a symphony? What is the facilitator doing? What is happening? And then similarly, look at the other side and consider when it feels clunky, when I don't feel engaged, when it feels a bit egotistic, what is going on? And really reflect on what from your experience works and doesn't work, and then break that down and go, what can I implement more of what works and what can I reduce of what doesn't work?
I love it. Really, we don't need to have all of the answers.
We definitely do not.
Not the job of a facilitator.
We can't have all the answers.
No one has all the answers.
But we're just here to facilitate learning in the space. And if we go back to the very beginning when we spoke about the meaning of the word facilitator, we're here to make it easy, to make learning easier.
Facile.
Très bien. Thank you for joining us. We've been Podclass. We will see you next week.
We will indeed.
See you later.
Bye.
I'll be here for you, 'cause you're there for them too.
Thanks so much for tuning into Podclass. If you've enjoyed this episode, we would adore it if you could go on to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and leave us a review. 5 stars would be lovely. We would love to get this podcast into as many ears as possible so we can help and support as many people as possible who help young people. And if you're not already doing so, please go along to Instagram and follow us at podclass.aus.